Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds. And may His peace and blessings be upon our Master, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and his pure, immaculate Ahlul Bayt. It's an honor to be with you, brothers and sisters, tonight. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to share these moments with you. In the verses of the Holy Quran, in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, in our aqa'id, in our doctrine, in our du'as, our supplications, in our ahkam, the legal rulings, in all these, in Islam, there are dimensions. There's more than one layer to Islam. It's important to pay attention to these dimensions of the verses, of the traditions, of the du'as, of the rulings. There's nothing unidimensional about Islam. Yes, okay, yes. There's nothing unidimensional about Islam. It's multidimensional. There are many dimensions to it. The deeper and more comprehensive you explore Islam, the more you'll benefit. One dimension is the external dimension, the zahir of religion. It's important. It's step one. It's a very essential dimension. You can't do without it. This zahir and external dimension is a conduit, and it's a route to deeper and more spiritual dimensions. So this external dimension should never be compromised with. However, if we suffice with this external dimension, if we suffice with the superficial meanings of the verses, traditions, du'as, legal rulings, doctrine, and so on and so forth, if we suffice with the external dimension, the superficial dimension, if we suffice with the prima facie meaning, if we suffice with it and say it's this and nothing else, here this will lead to dangers. It's going to cause problems. And Imam Khomeini, in one of his works, said that those who say that the Sharia is the letter of the law and nothing else, these are the shayateen on the path to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ayatollah Hassan Zada Amuli Hafadahullah says, a community without irfan is like a lifeless corpse. A community without those inner spiritual dimensions. They do step one, and they do it well, and it's important. But they think that's it. Such communities, they're tantamount to a lifeless corpse. There's no spiritual growth in them. It's all physical. But don't get me wrong, this external dimension, it's step one. A step without which you can't grow to future steps, to further steps, to the succeeding steps. Islam, the road to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's an infinite road. There's no end. In any case, if you suffice with the external dimension, you're limiting Islam, one, and you're limiting the I, yourself. you won't be growing. You've just done a minimum, and don't worry, you'll be given your heaven. What kind of a heaven? We don't know. According to some scholars, it's just like you go into a heavenly stable. There were things you liked materialistically here, you sufficed with the minimum, and you'll be given these materialistic things in the hereafter. But heaven has degrees. Then we come to other layers, the esoteric layers, inner layers, the internal dimensions of Islam, dimensions that are soul orientated, they're anfusi, dimensions where the soul grows. It's not confined to the physical realm, the physical body anymore. Growth is in the spiritual realm. There's nothing material there. It's here that one will benefit the more one enters this realm. The more one tastes from this realm, the more one sees in this realm, the more one hears in this realm. There's a prophetic tradition from the Holy Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who says, "Ash-shari'atu aqwali." The Sharia is my words. "Wat-tariqatu af'ali." The tariqa is my actions. "Wal-haqiqatu ahwali." But the haqiqa, they are my states. What the Holy Prophet would see, what he would hear, that's the goal. That's where we have to go to. That's the objective. Seeing, hearing, not with the physical eye, not with the physical ear. Seeing, hearing, tasting, the metaphysical. Only when we start doing that, we're growing now. If we don't have any of that, we're spiritually blind in this world, and we're going to be blind in the hereafter. Man kana fi hadhihi a'ma fahuwa fil akhirati a'ma. There's going to be no growth. You'll be given heaven in the hereafter. Don't worry about that. That minimum animalistic recreational heaven that was occupying your thoughts, you'll be given that. But there's much more to heaven than the holies, the palaces, the foods, and so on and so forth. But it's all about seeing. أَإِنْدَهُ إِلْمٌ غَيْبٌ فَهُوَ يَرَى. Does one have knowledge of the unseen to qualify as a seer? Not this seeing that animals do. Not seeing with the physical eye. Otherwise animals can, some of them see even better than us. Seeing metaphysical realities. Ma a'budu rabban lam ara. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, I don't worship a Lord that I don't see, not with the physical eye, with the eyes of the heart, but it's seeing. Now don't panic. Seeing has degrees to it. Some people see less, some people see more. Don't worry. As long as the states of the Holy Prophet is your aim. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا, those who say, رَبُّنَا Allah, our Lord is Allah. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, then they are steadfast on it. So the first part, our Lord is Allah, aqa'id. Aqa'id has degrees to it. Then they're steadfast on that aqa'id, action. Action has degrees to it. But it's these two. You master these two. You delve into these two. The more you do it, تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ malaika. The angels will descend upon them. This is explicitly mentioned in the Holy Quran. Aqa'id, action. The result, you're seeing. Seeing what? Receiving what? From the metaphysical. You're seeing angels. You'll be guided by angels. Most of us have seen angels, but we weren't aware that they were angels. For example, you heard a sound. Yes, it's okay. The light is problematic. Some people hear a sound and then they wake up. Then they see it's Fajr time. They heard a sound though. The person beside them, they didn't hear anything. They heard, not with the physical ear, because there was nothing physical to that sound. It's like the sound we hear in our dreams, for example. The sound in our dreams, not physical though. If one's aqa'id is weak, our actions are weak, that was an angel manifesting with a sound and giving us guidance. We woke up for Salatul Fajr. Some people hear voices guiding them, but they don't see who it is. Some people see their angels. Some people see their arms, but not physical. Some people see scholars who are angels who appear to them as scholars. In their dreams, some people outside of their dreams. But with aqa'id and action, the angels will guide you. In the Quran, and in the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt rather, there's a lot of mention in relation to the dimensions, the different dimensions to the Holy Quran. In one tradition from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, "Inna lil Qur'ani dhaharan wa batna." With the Quran, there's an external dimension and there's an inner dimension. Wa li batnihi batna. And within this inner dimension, there's another inner dimension. Ila sab'ata abton. And keep on going 7 times over. In that inner dimension, there's another inner dimension. In that inner dimension, in some traditions it says 700 inner dimensions. In some 7,000. The point is that Quran, it's infinite. It's Allah's infinite knowledge descended in an Arabic script. The Arabic script is the external dimension, and we have to benefit from the prima facie meaning. But every verse, every letter, there's an infinite number of dimensions. And one has to grow through these dimensions to grow spiritually. So, in another tradition from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Al-Qur'anu taqri'un kullu. The Quran is on the offensive, is on the attack, all of it. In relation to its sentencing and the different punishments it has, what the external dimension shows is that it always gives these different sentences for a variety of sins. But then it says, وَبَاطِنُهُ. But the inner dimensions of the Quran, the inner dimensions of that very external dimension, its inner dimension, taqreebun. It's all leading to your proximity to Allah. It's all proximity, taking you closer to Allah. That's the goal. The haqiqah is the goal. Then Allah He says, the fruit is the haqiqah. The way to the haqiqah is the tariqah. And the way to the tariqah is the sharia. So the sharia is step 1. The rulings, the halals, harams, the wajibat, the sins, the muharramat. but you can't suffice with it. It's an important scaffolding. But then you have to master the tariqa, at-tariqatu af'ali. They're my actions, the Holy Messenger said. Actions where are outside the jurisdiction of the Sharia. There are many things in the tariqah which are unproblematic according to the letter of the law, according to the Sharia, but according to the tariqah, it's problematic if you do them. You won't reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Holding on to grudges, not forgiving, jealousy, not building relations, especially with family members, even if it's your fault, even if it's their fault, not amending it immediately. These are the noble ethical traits. The Holy Messenger came to perfect these noble ethical traits. This is the tariqah. The study of the tariqah they call practical irfan or Sufism. It's the same word. Although Sufism has been abused, the term has been abused, but it means tariqahology. It's nothing to be scared about. It's like medicine being abused sometimes. You can't say medicine is bad. The tariqah is the way to the haqiqah. But to master it properly, you need the preliminaries, one of which is the Sharia. You can't compromise with the letter of the law. And that's why the scholars always say first learn the wajibat and the muharramat, and make sure you master the Sharia to the best of your capacity. And then you grow, you start growing. So, there are dimensions to Islam. It's not unidimensionally. This truth, this reality can be easily extrapolated from the verses of the Quran and the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt. The point being, don't suffice with the superficial dimension. يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They know of the external aspect of the worldly life. However, but they, عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ, in relation to the hereafter, contrary to the worldly dimension, in relation to the hereafter though, هُمْ غَافِلُونَ, they're oblivious to the hereafter. The hereafter is not just believing in something which will come one day. The hereafter is something to taste, see, experience now. Otherwise you're going to be spiritually blind. There's no point waiting for something. It will happen one day. You can't attract people to Islam like that. It will happen one day. After 80, 90, 100 years, you'll see it. We want to grow right now. There's no point in just waiting for 100 years and then seeing it. We want to come out of that spiritual blindness. In this world, Islam has a protocol for spirituality to make people see, hear, taste, to be attracted to Islam. Okay. So this external dimension is what you see. The ruku, the sujood, the wudu, the ghusl, these external actions. This is part of the superficial dimension. And they have to be abided by. But the point is this, that these very external dimensions are a conduit. They're a route to metaphysical realities. And therefore, these external actions have inner adab. They have inner etiquettes. These very external rulings that we do every day. There are adab and etiquettes attached to them so that we get to the metaphysical. And that's why we shouldn't suffice with the external dimension. Otherwise, if you get drowned in the physical dimension, in the external actions and movements, it's going to cause problems. I'll give a few examples. So the Sharia speaks of water. And when it speaks of water, it says, look, we have two types of water. One type is voluminous. It's called core water. It's X liters cubed, for example, in volume. Anything less than core, then the Sharia says we call that qaleel, little, not voluminous water. What does this water signify? Is there a meaning behind the water? And then, why is it divided into qaleel water, little water, and core water, voluminous water? Is it just for the external dimension, or are there meanings behind it? So when we encounter these realities every day, these very simple external movements and actions are taking us somewhere else. According to the logic of the Holy Quran and the logic of the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, water is ma'rifah, it's knowledge. Water in this realm, in the metaphysical realm, it's knowledge. And this knowledge, this ma'rifah, there are two types. There's the little or limited ma'rifah, and there's the core, voluminous ma'rifah. You have to be careful. You have to acquire ma'rifah, a lot of it. If you don't acquire core water, voluminous knowledge, be careful if you don't. Because if spiritual contaminations pollute you, your qaleel ma'rifah, it makes you all contaminated. You see, the rulings of qaleel and core, how the outlook changes now. Yes, the letter of the law, we abide by it, no question about it. But if you just take the letter of the law, core letter of the law, you're not growing. What is it? It's meant to recall. You're meant to recall something deeper. You have to be core water, acquire that voluminous knowledge, so that even if contaminations do pollute you spiritually, it doesn't pollute you entirely. Only a few aspects that are tainted, that are discolored, only they would have to be amended. It speaks of the najasa. Yes, this physical najasa. But this physical najasa is on a par with our spiritual contaminations. Then how do we have to purify ourselves? In the same way that qaleel water can purify certain najasat, core water can purify certain najasat or mutanajjisat that qaleel water can't do. You have to be careful. But the whole discussion of water, it's all ma'rifah. Then it speaks of the impediment when you do wudu, for example. If there's an impediment on your skin, not allowing water to reach the superficial skin area, the wudu won't be complete. You see, and this is the letter of the law, and no one wants to compromise with that. But sometimes you see people, they have this impediment, and they acquire obsession with it. They ask 100 people, is this an impediment or not? Is it a mane or not for my wudu? And since they look at the letter of the law, core letter of the law, they acquire waswas after a period of time. either with the water, with the marne, it's a bit of oil or grease, for example, on their skin. And since they look at the Sharia unidimensionally, they get obsessed with these matters. These matters are essential, don't get me wrong. The reason they get obsessed with it because they get drowned in the physical aspect of it. Someone may backbite every day and hurt people every day and have created for themselves a mane, a ma'arifa proof, knowledge proof, shield and impediment spiritually within, and they think if they get rid of that, everything is solved. But how wrong they are. This mane, this impediment, the reality is within. Is there a spiritual impediment that you're shielding yourself with? Not allowing water, ma'arifa, entering the heart. You see, these things now change. The Sharia has meaning. Some people tell me, don't speak about irfan on the pulpit. You'd be surprised how many negative feedback I get. They say, our children don't know how to do wudu and salat, and you speak about irfan. But the problem is, why don't they know their salat or wudu? Because you've taught them in a unidimensional fashion. These simple things that Islam and the scholars that have extrapolated it from Islam, from the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt, they want to teach us the inner meanings of the Sharia. So we do it wholeheartedly. You can't limit Islam to one dimension. It's like a lifeless corpse. The community won't grow. The children won't grow. Especially the youth today. The parents or grandparents, for whatever reason, they decided to come from the East here. They learned Islam in one way, in a particular way, in the East. They come here, they take their children to the best universities, the best schools, that teach you to question everything, to criticize everything, to evaluate everything. And they want to learn Islam like that now, not the way you learned it. And then you just stick to the unidimensional approach. Well, they won't accept it. You keep on telling them, do your wudu like that. You keep on them from here to there, wash it like this. Not telling them why they do the wudu. You just limit it to a physical set of actions. Then you may even say it's for cleanliness. Then the youth says, well, I've just had a shower. I'm much more cleaner. There's no need to do that. How are you going to answer now? The fault is the way you educated them. You educated them unidimensionally. That unidimensional approach of explaining things won't suffice for them. They say, we just had a shower. We don't need to do the wudu. And they're right. The question's a legitimate question. The problem is your Islam, the way you explained it was wrong. You limited it. See, these problems arise. In all these rulings, there are esoteric dimensions. Another one is the traveler's prayer. When you pass a certain distance, the canonical distance, the Shari'i distance, you become a traveler now. Since you become a traveler, they say now your 4-unit prayers, they become 2-unit prayers. What's the reason there? Well, we don't know the ratio legis, the ultimate reason behind it, but there are many wisdoms we have access to. There are many wisdoms why a 4-unit prayer becomes converted down to a 2-unit prayer. There are layers within this. When we travel a distance, in different weathers, different climates, so many extra parameters now are added in your travels. Health-wise, you're more exposed to more dangers, and therefore you recall Allah more. And that's why we have many du'as, many verses of the Quran, to recall Allah more in your traveling. And then, since we're recalling Allah more in this journey, Allah says, now you've recalled me a lot, here you can convert the 4-unit prayers to the 2-unit prayers. It's a kind of discount. However, then the Sharia says, wait a minute, but if you are traveling for haram reasons, no, then you stick with the 4 units, because a haram journey with a haram intentions, there's no Allah there. So when you're recalling Allah in your journey, you see, there are layers to all these simple things. The youth have to be taught the Sharia with these meanings. Especially in the West, especially for the youth, this may be one of the best routes. In my small experience in the West, this seems very important. Don't be scared by the term irfan. We're not speaking about that advanced theoretical irfan. These are simple things for the children to understand more in relation to the Sharia. And then even things like janaba, haid, menstruation, all these have inner meanings. I won't go through them here, but a lot of them. A good book to read and learn about these inner meanings is Imam Khomeini's Adab al-Salat. It's in Farsi, it's been translated into English. The original was, he wrote the original in Arabic. It was called Sirr al-Salat. It's very difficult though, a lot of technical terminology and yes. They asked him to write a more simple version, and in Farsi he wrote Adab al-Salat. It's less difficult. And that's been translated into English. The translation isn't bad, but it's not perfect. But you can benefit from it, at least to some extent. Now, I was told to go into just one last point before I enter the second part of the discussion. So, sufficiency and sufficing with step 1, if you limit Islam to step 1, and you think it's all about the letter of the law, not only it can limit the self, it will limit your religion, but it can lead to many ethical problems. It has a lot of ethical side effects. You become complacent. You become judgmental. You judge people merely on the outside. You become arrogant. If you suffice with the letter of the law. Maybe you've seen people where all that matters to them is the external facade of things. If they see people not doing the external side as it should be done, they speak in the worst of manners. And they even to themselves, at least to themselves or to others, they say, this person is bad. Just because the person hasn't abided by one physical aspect of the Sharia. They even say to themselves, they have the audacity, or even if they think it to themselves, that he or she is bad, or he or she is weak. That's polluting yourself. We don't know who's bad or good. You see something that is not on a part of the Sharia, if you think it will be effective, you go in the best possible way, you do amr ma'roof. But thinking these negative thoughts just because you think Islam is all the letter of the law. There are many people who do all the wajibat. They refrain from all the sins. But they're the most unethical of people. unethical. Jealousy kills them. Pride kills them. They always hold on to grudges. They're complacent people. They never forgive. Yes. Now look at this statement by Imam Khomeini in his Adab al-Salat. He writes, the inner impurities, the ethical impurities, jealousy, holding on to grudges, not forgetting, not forgiving. The inner impurities lead to the suppression or inhibition of salvation. The inner impurities lead to the suppression of happiness, of sa'ada, of salvation. And it's these inner impurities that constitute the cause of one's ethical hell. Allahu Akbar. But the terms are very delicate here. These inner impurities, you won't acquire salvation if you have them. You may go to heaven, don't worry. But still, salvation has degrees to it. And it's these inner impurities which constitute the cause to your hell. Hell has degrees to your ethical hell. Now, what's the ethical hell all about? Then he continues, and this ethical hell, which according to the people of Ma'rifah, the Urafa, is loftier, it's mightier, and more burning than the hell of actions. Very, very important. The hell of actions, the hell of the Sharia. Those physical actions, the wajibat, mu'aramat, you don't do them and you're creating your own hell. There's no one burning you. As you acted in this world, as you sinned in this world, you're creating your hell. Don't say that Allah is punishing you or burning you. Don't blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These actions are vertical to punishment. One is creating one's hereafter, action to action, in this world. In relation to the Sharia sins, if you refrain from the wajibat, if you do the muharramat, you'll be creating that hell. It's called the hell of actions. But hell has degrees. A higher degree, a more burning, a more mighty degree of hell is the hell of akhlaq. As in Farsi he says, Jahannam akhlaq. It's more burning. And what is it? It's the inner impurities. The ethical sins. It's going to burn you more. As Muslims, don't be too complacent. It's going to be difficult as Muslims. And then look how the traditions of the Ahlul Bayt explain this reality in a very delicate way. Where a mushrik at the time of the Holy Messenger, by the name of Hatam at-Ta'i, he was a mushrik, but he had no ethical impurities. He was never jealous. He always forgave. He would never hold on to grudges. He would always give. He would always give of himself. This Hatam Ta'i passed away. It was of interest to the people what's going to happen to him. They asked the Holy Messenger, what's going to happen to this non-believer? He was a mushrik after all. The Holy Messenger said that he's going to hell. But because he had access to true Islam, the Sharia, he didn't accept it. He's going to hell, the hell of actions. However, This hell, the Holy Prophet continued, the fire will not burn him. He's in hell. The fire won't burn him. And he'll receive sustenance also in that baboon of hell. Sustenance. Because he didn't have the hell of ethics. He didn't have the ethical. He had the ethical heaven. And it saved him from the hell of actions. You see. Or, for example, a mushrik, in some traditions, a mushrik gave refuge to a Muslim in the land of Kuf. That applies to everyone here. So a mushrik gave refuge to a Muslim to live his life in peace in this land of Kufr. And the Holy Prophet replied, well, this was one of the Imams, I think Imam Baqir, alayhi salam, or Imam Sadiq, but I think it was Imam Baqir. He said that he's in hell, the fire won't reach him because of giving refuge to a Muslim. And he will also benefit in that hell, will feed him. You see, these things, we have to be careful. Don't be complacent. You don't know what's going to happen, especially as Muslims. Some traditions say when the 12th Imam comes, a group from Rome, they all go attracted to the 12th Imam. They all accept him immediately. Because they have that ethical heaven right now in this world. The pure fitra recognizes the true Imam. But the same traditions speak of the scholars rejecting the Imam. Because the scholars, yes, they did all the wajibat, refrain from the muharramat. They may have escaped the hell of actions, but they had polluted themselves in other ways. You need a pure fitra to see the Imam, to recognize the Imam. Imamat is a fitri issue. It's not an academic issue. Okay. Now, they told me to speak about the inner dimensions of Salat. I've given you the name of the book. It's a good book, Adab Salat. You can refer to that. But I'll just say a few words on this. A few practical words so it can be of some practical use to some of you, and then inshallah we'll end. I thought to speak about the wudu a bit more, because it's a preliminary to the salat. And the wudu is an important preliminary to benefit maximally from the salat. The adhan and the iqama are also, they're not wajib, but they're very important preliminaries with inner meanings from which you can use and benefit from the salat maximally again. These preliminaries to the salat, they're there for a purpose. They want your salat to be maximum. As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. The salat is the believer's mi'raj. One ascends, sees, hears during one's salat. Now, in relation to the wudu, the way that the imams, and this tradition is Imam Rida, alayhi salam, he's explained it, is like this. This can be found in Adab Salat. I've just expounded on it a bit. He says, when you encounter the water, and you're seeing the water, now these are explicit traditions from the Ahlul Bayt now. When you're seeing the water, you have to deliberate. Think, tafakkur. Deliberate on what? He gives 4 or 5 things. He says, deliberate on the water's purity and transparency. That's the first thing. Then deliberate on the water's fluidity, its smoothness. Then deliberate on the water's blending capacity, its mixing capacity with other things, whilst preserving its H2O identity. Then deliberate and see water as eliminating impurities, as a purifier. And put all these together, the outcome is see water as Allah's mercy. You start with this. In the beginning, this is a bit difficult. This takes time, takes practice. And you don't have to do all of it together. You can only focus on the water's transparency for a week or two, and then add to these things bit by bit, week after week. That was step one. Then you say to yourself that I want to incorporate these attributes of water within myself. After deliberating that the water is transparent, the water is fluid, water blends, water eliminates impurities, water is mercy, now you want to recall that I want to incorporate these attributes of water within myself. This has to be recalled, this protocol, recalling it for every wudu. Now what are these attributes of water? How are these to be incorporated? In relation to the transparency of water and the fluidity of water, the scholars have said that it means not to have any aggressive behavior at home and outside home, not to be angry, to remain transparent, to remain smooth and fluid. You shouldn't get angry. And this has to be recalled every time you want to do wudu. Once someone came to the Holy Messenger and said, Mad-Deen, what is religion? The Holy Prophet answered, Husnul khulq, good behavior, decent, ethics, decent dispositions, temperaments, proper akhlaq. The person didn't understand. He asked the question again from the other side of the Holy Messenger. The same reply came. He still don't understand. Okay, what is this decent ethics? Asked it again, the same reply came. Asked it a fourth time. The Holy Messenger replied, don't be angry. Don't be aggressive. Qadab, eliminate your qadab. You have to remain transparent, fluid, smooth. The verse above me that is written here is in relation to soothing one's ghaib. Like water soothes things, you have to soothe within. Then water mixes and blends. How can you incorporate that within you? Here, you have to blend with people. And whilst blending with people, you preserve your inner identity and purity. Be with the people. Kun fin nas wala takun walam takun ma'ahum. Be amongst the people, but don't be with them. Being with someone is when you get their attributes. Ma'ahum. This ma'a is when you dress your soul with their attributes. Be careful. Don't incorporate people's negative traits within you. But you have to be with the people to grow. You can't grow in a hut all alone. There are certain divine attributes you have to acquire by being with people. You can't be patient or forgiving or generous if you live alone. You have to see certain behavior and then be patient. You have to see certain behavior and be forgiving and be generous and so on and so forth. So you have to blend with the people. Like water that blends with other things but preserves its H2O water identity. But if it loses its H2O identity, problems arise. And then now another classification of water in the Sharia, we have mutlaq water and we have mudaf water. Mutlaq water is water that the common layperson on seeing it says this is water. Mudaf water is like orange juice, for example. It's not water. Anything which, when you see it, you don't say this is water. It's mudaf water. Mudaf water doesn't purify, doesn't eliminate impurities. Mudaf water, if the smallest najasa enters it, it all becomes najis, even if it's a lot. Don't become mudaf. When you blend, be careful. Preserve that blending water identity. Don't become mudaf. If you become mudaf, don't blend with the people anymore. Because the smallest contamination will pollute all your existence. Stay home, doesn't matter. Limit it, at least minimize it. These things are important. And just think of mudaf in one way and suffice it to the external dimension. It's a pity. All these have inner meanings. In relation to the Holy Messenger, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, in relation to the Holy Messenger, Tabibun dawarun bitibbi. He was a tabib, a doctor, a physician, or whatever it was called in those days, who would make a lot of rounds, visit people with his medicine, internal medicine though, inner medicine, spiritual medicine. But he was dawarun. He would make these make these rounds. He would see everyone, blend with everyone, mix with everyone, to give them their medicine, to cure people, to heal people spiritually. But he would preserve his identity. That's why Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he would travel for kilometers to find someone to dine with, have physical food with. But this physical food was a conduit to spiritual food. And those mushriks which he would find whilst walking for kilometers with bare feet on the desert, and he would bring those mushriks home and feed them, he would then give spiritual food to them. That physical food was a conduit to spiritual food. And then the traditions say that then those mushriks would become Muslim. So, I'll stop there, but pay attention to the inner meanings of religion, especially the rituals, the Sharia. And I think Adab al-Salat is a good book to gather and speak with one another about. It'll benefit a lot, everyone to their own capacity. And thank you for listening. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala alihi.